Welcome back to the third and final part of our first show. If you're just joining us, we've already finished parts 1 and 2. We've tried and discussed Bulleit Bourbon, and we've covered the first half of the pilot episode of Kurt Sutter's Sons of Anarchy. I want to remind everyone, please like and subscribe. Please leave your questions and your comments in the comment section below. And remember that you can also email us at ask@bourbonbros.tv. And as always, if your question doesn't suck, we may answer it on a future episode.
And even if it doesn't suck, we might talk about it, at least for now.
At least for now. At this point, let's just be honest. We'd be happy to get a question.
Yeah, from one of our four watchers, right?
That's
four
right.
Viewers.
That's right. And hopefully they're not just family. So Ken, we left off talking about, I think, one of the key scenes and what I would refer to as the A storyline, which is the theft of the guns and the warehouse that was burned down. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously going to continue and move to what will ultimately be the climax of the episode. But as we move into the back half of the episode, we've basically laid out the foundation of who the characters are. We've got Jax's ex-wife, Wendy, who is an addict and has had a premature birth of Jax's son. We've got these guns that have been stolen. We've got the deer and the beamer, so some comic relief. What else stood out to you in this episode?
I don't want to bring us down, but there's some serious moments there that you have Abel that was born, has a lot of medical issues. You have Jax, who's you get a feeling like he doesn't want the disappointment. He doesn't want to put effort into connecting with his child if he's just going to lose a child. And so, one of the scenes that jumped out to me was Gemma was there at his house, Jax's house, cleaning. It was a mess. She was there cleaning. And
right. She's at Jax's house cleaning up the mess from Wendy after her bender.
Yeah, exactly. So, he comes home and they get into it, and Jax is, telling his mom, "Get out of here. Stop cleaning. You don't have to clean."
It's not his mom's problem.
It's not his mom's problem.
Mom, for Christ's sake, stop cleaning. He's not gonna make it.
What are you talking about? What happened?
He was born with half a stomach and a hole in his heart. He's gonna die.
Don't you say that.
It was a serious moment. She said, if you don't believe that he can survive, you might as well go down there and kill him yourself.
Yeah, and there's
kind of sobering, kind of a sobering scene.
It is, and there's two things here. So basically, when you piece this together, Jax assumes Abel is not going to survive, right? And so him leaving is his way of not wanting to become emotionally attached to his son that he knows won't survive. So that's why he doesn't want to see him, right? It's why he won't go and visit. He knows that's going to wreck him, right? And so for him, it's about creating distance. And this is the first time where he's finally verbalizing those feelings.
Right.
And his mom just knocks him into next Tuesday.
Right. But what also comes out there is this heart condition is genetic. Hereditary.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you noticed, but Gemma has the little scar where she had it.
Yes.
And I don't know if Jax's father had it, but it seems like it runs in the family.
Yeah, her true north is like, we're fighters, right? And so that was a great scene. And the other scene that I really liked that is also not necessarily fun or funny was with Opie and Donna.
Oh, gee.
I mean, you talk about being stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Like there's no win for Opie, right? Whatever decision he makes, someone loses, which is just an awful position to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this scene where the club needs him. He's, I think the way Jax put it, like, are you saying no to the club, which Opie can't do? He's agreed now to help the club with what needs to be done, which in this case is to rig some explosives.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the garage. He's getting those explosives, and Donna comes out and discovers it and loses her shit.
She loses it completely.
Give me the bag. Give me the bag!
No! 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 Stop!
Stop it!
No!
Donna!
It's such a real human scene, which is one of the things I love about the show, right? Like
You feel
these
for
would
all
be
of
the
them.
things that would be easy to leave out and just like everything's great. Everybody loves being part of the club. It's all good times, right? But that's not the show that Kurt's created. And my favorite part of this scene is the friendship between Jax and Opie.
A lot of history there.
Yeah.
And Jax really wants to help him, sees both sides of it, sees the club's needs and sees him and the needs of his family.
Yes. Yes. And Opie is not just a brother that is also a member of the club. Like they were friends long before being part of the club.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it reminds me of us in the sense of this tight friendship to the point where it's like brothers from another mother, and they always have each other's back. And so Jax says, you need to go take care of this with Donna. I know that you going and doing this for the club is going to hurt your relationship with your family. So don't go, and I'll take care of it. And then you see right after that, right, Jax rolls up, Clay rolls up. Clay's wondering where
He
Opie
asks him.
is. Jax tells him what happens, and you can just see on Clay's face, like he knows.
Mm-hmm.
He sees right through it.
Jax says, "It's all good."
Right. I got it. And we'll soon learn that Jax doesn't got it.
No.
But I love that friendship and the strength of that friendship.
Yeah.
And the way that they look out for each other. Which really then leads us up to like what I would call a 3-scene climax. Right? Like the end of the episode, there are 3 completely different scenes that Kurt has woven together where we kind of bounce between these 3 scenes over the course of, I think, about 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's
towards the end of the episode.
It's very well done. The outro of that episode, it lay a foundation for that. Should we bring up Bobby Elvis?
Yeah, so let me just quickly lay out the 3 scenes and then we can talk about them. So you have, so one of them is really Wendy, right? And what's kind of the end to this episode regarding Wendy, her drug addiction, and this premature baby that's been born. You have Bobby, who we learned earlier in church that he was not going to be part of the getting the guns back, right? And instead, he had to go to, is it Tahoe?
Up north, yeah.
Yeah, I think he had to go to Tahoe because he owes his ex-wife alimony and he needs the money. Now, we don't know what it is he's going to do in Tahoe, but he gets off the hook because he needs to go. He's booked in Tahoe to do a job, to earn money, and he needs that money. And then the third and final piece of this 3-scene climax is them raiding the Mayan warehouse to get their guns back and blow it up, right? The tit for tat. So those are your 3 scenes, right? Wendy, Bobby, Mayan warehouse. So let's go back to your original introduction of Bobby Elvis.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite sub characters of Bobby, right? He loves to do Elvis impressions.
Yeah, so he is an Elvis impersonator.
Yeah, and he's pretty good at it. But he shows up at the event where he's supposed to be, the impersonator, and sees this Asian Elvis. He's up there. Well, he's supposed to be there. Well, he talks to the owner of the club and finds out that, hey, there's a mistake made and you've been double booked. So what happens? They half sack. The prospect
does Bobby a solid.
Does Bobby a solid, beats the hell out of Asian Elvis, and Bobby gets on.
And my favorite part of that scene, just real quickly with Half Sack and Asian Elvis, is Asian Elvis, as he was getting the living tar beat out of him, he stays in character.
Who is it? The Colonel. Oh, sweet Jesus! Oh, help me, Mama, help me! Oh, sweet Jesus!
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Pretty funny.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, but this Bobby Elvis becomes a recurring theme. It's hilarious.
So yeah, you've got Bobby Elvis, which is some great comic relief in between 2 other serious aspects to this 3-scene climax. So let's real quickly talk about Wendy and how that wraps up, and then we'll wrap up the show with the kind of a storyline climax, which would be them getting the guns back. So the holy syringe.
So Gemma shows up to the hospital, and she walks into Wendy's hospital room.
Who's now awake and coherent.
And it's almost like, Gemma's there to, comfort her. But that's not really why she's there, right?
So friendly. Initially, right? Like just talking about Abel and how he survived the surgery.
With such an agenda in mind. She's there, and she has a Bible, and she sets the Bible down and has it set to a certain chapter, and she has a fully loaded syringe of heroin loaded.
Yes.
He will never call you. I suggest you turn to Jesus.
And that leaves her with this fully loaded syringe. She's finally looks like she's stabilized.
Right.
But not for long. So she shot it up. They don't show it.
Yeah. And just to be clear, what Gemma is basically saying is, you're a piece of shit. You don't deserve to be here. You'll never see your son again. I'm going to make sure of that. So you're better off just killing yourself now. Oh, that's ice cold.
Brutal. I totally feel you can feel that.
Oh yeah, and
it gives you a feel for her character.
That's right. And again, this is what I love about the pilot is when there's so much that you have to do. It's masterful in the way that in a small scene like that, you know who Gemma is. The final piece is the getting the guns back and raiding this Mayan warehouse, which they find the guns and they're loading the guns in the truck while Jax does what Opie should have been here to do, which is to wire the explosives. And Jax doesn't really know what he's doing and can't figure it out. So he's now trying to call Opie and figure it out. And this starts to burn a bunch of time, right? They're not in and out as quickly as they normally would be. And what happens? Mayans show up.
Yeah. They show up
Right.
right as they're trying to load everything.
And you can see, like, Clay sees the Mayans showing up, and you see him shoot a look at Jax. Like, he knows Opie should have been here. This wouldn't have happened. We would have already been gone. And it's another indication to what we saw earlier, where there's this feeling that Jax is going soft. So he's trying to think of a way to outwit both Clay and these Mayans, right? So he takes the blanket from the homeless woman.
Yeah, he says, I'm going to draw them into the dumpster. And by the way, and stop. Because that blanket becomes, no spoilers, but it becomes instrumental, right?
Yes, this homeless woman is not insignificant to the series.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. But again, everything happens for a reason. Everything means something.
Everything's calculated.
This homeless woman was not just a convenient way to give Jax a distraction. There's more to it than that.
There is.
Right? But he does then use that blanket to pretend to be homeless himself, right? Draws the Mayans in. And then there's another person that comes kind of out of the shadows, and they end up in this
gunfight.
Meanwhile, you've got the other guy who jumps in the truck and tries to get away. And now we get introduced to Tig.
I got him!
Yeah, I love Tiggs. We haven't got into his character yet. We haven't seen it develop, but there is a lot to come.
Yes, and I gotta say, so Theo Rossi, who played Juice, and Kim Coates, who played Tig.
Wow.
Right? Two great characters in this series have their own YouTube show. And at the risk of sending our 4 fans over to their show, I just want to say that we had no idea they were going to do this. We had made the decision to do this before we even knew they existed. But to me, it tells me we picked the right series. Because you've got 2 actors who lived this series that, again, Ken, not a new show.
Not a new show.
And here
years
they
ago.
are, like working actors that are wanting to go back and revisit this series.
Right.
And talk about what it was like to do this series. And so they are both brilliant in this series.
Oh.
And I'm so glad, I think it's Theo's show, but I'm so glad that Theo convinced Kim Coates to do this. Because now, first of all, I'm just going to share, we learned from that show, because I went and checked it out, Kim Coates got hired the night before they filmed the pilot.
I did see that.
Right? Which is just amazing. But I don't think this show is the show it is without Kim Coates.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And Theo is amazing as well, and he gets some amazing storylines as we get further into the series. And I'd love to know how that came to be, because it's an amazing storyline, and he had to have been thrilled with that opportunity. But Kim Coates,
amazing.
How you can take someone that is such a warped human being that no one should like, and yet you love this character.
You love him.
And yes, there was great writing, but it's the way Kim Coates portrays this character and the authenticity that he brings to that character. It is what you see is what you get. There's so much authenticity. I can't even describe how amazing he is as Tig. I can't wait. Like, I'm so excited for what's ahead.
There's a lot to dive into, that's for sure.
Now, we can't wrap up without talking about the climactic scene, which is the explosives that are set to destroy this Mayan
Warehouse.
storage facility.
Yeah,
warehouse.
storage facility. Mm-hmm.
And it really comes down to a single stick of dynamite. Which, when I saw this scene, I just immediately, it took me out of the episode, and I just immediately went, Kurt Sutter. That is 100% Kurt Sutter.
No fueron tus piernas, tu cadera, tu cintura, ni tu pelo, ni tus brazos, ni tus manos, ni cintura. Tus ojitos son los que me enamoraron. No fue tu vestido, tus zapatos, tus anillos, ni la cuenta en el banco, aunque sé que es tuyo y mío. Tus ojitos, Diosito, tus ojitos.
Dynamite in the butt, Ken.
Yes, there was.
And you get that close-up scene, and then the warehouse goes up in flames, fade to black.
And the way that final 5 minutes played out, it was just great. It made me want to go to the next episode. I was hooked immediately.
For those that are not familiar with the show, they actually shot 2 pilots.
They did.
Right?
They did.
So they shot one pilot. The original pilot they used to get the show picked up by FX.
Mm-hmm.
And FX picked it up, but they wanted some changes. And so Kurt had to go in and make those changes and then reshoot the pilot.
Clay was one of them, right?
Yeah. So the actor Scott Glenn was originally cast to play Clay Morrow.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, it didn't work. And so they recast that role with Ron Perlman as Clay.
Wow.
The other thing that they did that was different is Alvarez, the president of the Mayans,
mm-hmm.
was originally kind of Clay's right hand, right? So you had Scott Glenn, and then the actor who played Alvarez is kind of the right hand, and that didn't work either. And so they recast that actor as the head of the Mayans, and they brought in Kim Coates
mm-hmm.
to play Tig as kind of this right hand consigliere to Clay. And so one of the things that Kurt Sutter talked about when they reshot the pilot is they not only kind of addressed the changes that needed to be made for the show, but you now know it's being picked up. You've been given a budget, and Kurt talks about how, like, once you have the opportunity to redo it, you can kind of get wrapped around the axle.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, I think what happened initially on the show, and he says, I will defend the pilot. I think it's a solid pilot. We both agree with him.
Totally.
It is an absolutely solid pilot. But he goes on to say that part of the deal with the curve in terms of people coming on board the show is that it was really a different world, and it was a lot of information. And I think it took people a couple of episodes to understand that and plug into it. And I would agree. the pilot's great, but we've just scratched the surface of what makes this whole world
We're
tick.
laying the foundation, but it's not like it takes a while. There's no opportunity to not tune in for episode 2.
Yes.
Like, immediately, I'm ready to go.
Yes. And Kurt Sutter said that when the show got picked up, the network and the studio dumped another $2 million into the show. Mm-hmm. And so he said, you have this time to go, what else can we fix now that we have this money? And being that it was the first show that Kurt Sutter was running
On his
own, he said, I began to overanalyze, overnote, overwrite. Like he just got, like he wanted it to be great. He had the money to make it great. And he started to just get too close to it. Mm-hmm. And he said that if the pilot is uneven in areas, it's because, quite frankly, we probably spent a little too much time trying to fix it.
Very well done. Great writing. I'm loving everything about it. I'm completely out of Bulleit bourbon now, so I gotta go replace it.
Well, it's a good thing you kept enough to get through tonight's episode.
Yeah, just strained it, so we're good.
Well, this wraps up the discussion, and this will conclude our very first of what I hope to be many episodes of the Liquid Courage Show. Next week, we're going to feature Season 1, Episode 2, titled Seeds.
Seeds, yes.
And we're going to see the introduction of some new characters.
Yes, we will.
And we're going to see some storylines from this first episode that kind of get established and what will ultimately carry us through the season. So I'm looking forward to that. But we can't wrap up without answering one very important question.
What is the question?
What are we drinking next week, Ken?
Well, I picked the Bulleit bourbon, so I'm going to throw it back to you.
All right. So I teased this in part 1. Bulleit used to be my staple go-to. There were other more expensive, more hard to find bourbons, but like my everyday bourbon used to be Bulleit.
I can't wait till we get into the really expensive bourbons.
Yes.
But we'll save that for another show down the road.
We're just going to take it up another notch. So
Okay.
I have a new staple, a new quote unquote everyday bourbon that is my favorite and has replaced Bulleit. And so I want to bring that next week. I think it's a perfect follow-up to the Bulleit.
Okay.
And that would be the Woodford Reserve.
Oh, what a great drink. I'm on board. Let's do it.
All right. And that's going to do it for tonight's show. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Thank you for joining us. And please remember to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our channel for more episodes. But most importantly, join us here each and every week for the Liquid Courage Show. Good night, everyone.